it's me. Hi. What's good, everyone? It's Adam from Mo. Welcome to a brand new video. Today we're gonna go ahead and break down Taylor Swift's Anti-Hero. So let's get straight into it. The tempo for this one is 97 beats per minute, and it is produced by Jack Antonoff and Taylor Swift. We're gonna start off with, I guess we can start off with the intro over here. We can start off with the drums first this time. There's a lot of layers in this track, and we'll get to each one of them. So the drums look and sound like this. So we have a kick, same pattern throughout the track. We have two types of snares. Now to get that delay that you hear on that snare, I pulled up Logic's Echo, and these are the settings right here. It's a 16th note delay with a feedback of 40%. So you see how it sort of rattles out, otherwise it'd sound like this. Just gives it a little bit more space. This is the second snare right over here. It has like a clap with it, and it's also a bigger sounding snare because there's a reverb sitting on top of it. Next up, we have the hi-hats. It kind of sounds like a shaker type of sound, and then layered on top of that hi-hat is a little bit more of a hi-hat that you would come to know and expect, like a closed hat. And together. And then underneath all that, there was like this chicka 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 type of sound underneath. It's like this white noise type of sound. So I just recreated that here. It's very subtle and in the background. And that's just using Logic's ES2 synthesizer. And it's pretty much just using the noise generator right over here with a little bit of sine level just to get a little bit of pitch stuff in there. All right, so moving on to the sort of the main foundation to this track. And it's this sort of glistening synth, sort of gated synth that happens in the background. And it sounds like this. Now I have a couple sounds layered together to get that sound. And I'm just gonna play it all together here. All right, so the first sound right over here, it sounds like this. So that's sort of capturing all the low mids type of sounds that I need for this sound over here. And for that, I'm using Logic's Retro Synth. And I'm just using the default setting over here. To get that sort of stutter sound, I just broke the chord notes into 16 bits. So every time it hits, it goes da 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 da. And then on the envelope, we sort of pulled up the envelope to give it a soft hit so it's not so plucky. And then I have this over here. It's giving me a little bit more of like a plucky type of sound to pull it out of the mix a little bit. And for that sound, I'm using a preset in Logic's Retro Synth called Breathy Steps. And then finally, for the last sound layered here, it really pulls everything together and it sounds like this. It's sitting a little bit higher than all the other sounds. And for that sound, I'm using Logic's Alchemy. And I'm using a classic Super Saw preset in Alchemy on the Hollow Synth performance, and this really makes that sound sort of come to life. If we didn't have that sound, it would sound like this. Next up, we have a group of pads to make this sound really full. Once again, a lot of layers in this track, and here's what the pads sound on their own. All the same, the chord progression is the same for each pad. So let's go ahead and break down each one of these individually. So we have this one over here. This one is just giving me that sort of ethereal type of vibe that this track needs. And it's just sitting there. It's not too prevalent, but it's just giving us a lot of space. For that sound, I'm using a preset in Logic Pro. You can find it under Synthesizer Pad. It is called Breathy Vox. Layered with that, we get this pad over here. So this one's a little bit more grainy and a little bit more mid-rangey. Now layered with that sound, we get this pad sound over here. And last but not least, we have another pad, and this pad takes this whole pad sequence to another level. It sort of adds a lot of movement to it and just gives a lot of depth to this pad section. Next up, we have the bass. Now the bass, there's a couple basses here, and this is what they sound like. The first one being this one. So that's pretty much the foundation to the entire bass sound, this sound right over here. It's actually a preset in Logic. If you go to synthesizer bass, the preset is called 80s pluck bass. Layered with that bass sound, we have this over here. Now this sound I put in there just to pull out the bass a little bit more. This sits on top of the other bass and is giving like a tone that can cut through the mix just to bring that bass out a little bit more. And for that, I just pulled up Logic's ES2 synthesizer over here. The foundation to this bass is a super saw type of bass sound. So you can see a lot of sawtooth oscillators over here mixed together. And that's pretty much the sound right there, nothing else to it. And then sitting on top of all that, we have like an electric guitar type of sound. And that once again just lives to sit on top of all those other sounds to pull out that bass progression that goes throughout the track. It's really important to have all that. All that together sounds like this. It just helps the bass sound cut through the mix and you really feel that progression going throughout the track. Moving along, we get this choir over here. It's just like an ooh choir type of sound. And for that, I just pulled up Logic's Alchemy and pulled up the girls choir ooh preset on the ooh performance. And then in the background, you have like this sliding bass sound. So that happens before you go into the pre-chorus. And for that sound, I pulled up a preset. You can find it under Synthesizer, Experimental, and the preset is called Slide Pad. Now in this section over here, the classic super saw synth right over here. Same sound as before, except it gets a little bit brighter. So I just pulled back the low pass right over here just to make it a little bit brighter for this section only. This synth right over here, it's pretty much the same sort of setting as the other sort of gated synths, except I just want to add this in just to fill it out a little bit more for this section because I heard there's something changing happening in the original track. So just put this in there just to give it another texture to the sound. It's minimal, but it just adds another layer and dimension to that sound. And then down over here, the bass switches up. It's the exact same main bass sound, except it's a lot louder because this section is sort of building towards the chorus. And the way you want to write these type of songs is you build up to the chorus, and then it sort of drops off for the next verse. So this just gets louder here. And then we get into the big, huge chorus right over here. Alright, so in the background, it's sort of very quiet because you have Taylor's voice obviously on top. There's this melody that's happening in the background and it sounds like this on its own. Not that. So over here we have a piano and it's just sort of playing this bass pattern. And for that sound, I'm just using Logic Steinway Grand Piano. Over here is just a basic. It's just playing on the root note of the key of this track at E, and it just creates a lot of tension in the chorus and a lot of build up to this huge big chorus that we have in this track. And for that sound, I'm using Logic's Retro Synth over here, using the dance basic lead in Retro Synth, and that's pretty much it. It just creates a lot of tension and build up to the big section right over here. And then we have this melody pattern over here. It looks like this. So that's for the A part of the chorus, the B part over here. So for that sound, what I'm using here, once again, is just another instance of that dance basic lead, the same one as we're using for that tension sound hitting on the E. And that just sort of builds up into this big sort of crescendo moment right over here. And it sounds like this on its own. All right, so for the first sound, we have this right over here. And for that sound, I'm using Logic's Retro Synth over here. You can find the Hyper Lead preset underneath the synth leads, Hyper preset, Hyper Lead, and layered with that, we have this bell type of sound. And for that, once again, pulled up Logic's Retro Synth, and I'm using the Calming Bells preset. It's going off my screen here, but it's the synth keyboards category, Calming Bells. So that's pretty much the remake right there. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. You listen to Taylor Swift's Anti-Hero remade in Logic Pro. Let's go. So that's the remake right there to Taylor Swift's Anti-Hero remade in Logic Pro. It just loops after that. If you haven't had the chance to listen to Taylor Swift's Midnight, definitely go take a listen to it. It's an incredible album. I grew up on a lot of pop music, and I love some of these pop anthems that she has in there. If you do use Logic, I'm going to go ahead and place this entire Logic session for you down below this video in the description box. If you don't use Logic, I got your back as well. I'm going to go ahead and export all the MIDI stems, audio stems, and include the drum kit that you heard in this remake as well. That playback can be found below the like button. Speaking of that like button, definitely drop a like if you did like this video. And for more good videos like this, hit that subscribe button. It definitely helps out the channel. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one. We'll talk to y'all soon. Later.